Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Dana Rubin with From Fertility to Delivery, and today I have Elizabeth Scheer, and she is from Passion for Posture, and she has a great. Uh, so welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me, Dana.
Thank you. And today we're going to talk about posture, the posture needed for not just during pregnancy, which I'll talk about, but throughout the childbirth experience, why there's such a big need for focusing on posture, the pelvic floor, and how we can help ourselves and our loved ones with posture. So I would like, Elizabeth, for you to just go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience and just have a little conversation about what motivated you to start this your business and where you're at
Mhm.
right now.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. So great to be here. So I started what I'm doing based on my own injuries. I've been a massage therapist 27 years and a yoga teacher 14 years, but I was really injured in yoga and I kept being pushed to stretch my body and stretch things open. And what happened was I destabilized my pelvis and my spine in the process, and I never got out of pain. I was in chronic pain from, being an athlete growing up and then going in just stretching everything. So I specialize now in pelvic floor mobility and activation because that's what I needed. And I've not been pregnant. I haven't had children yet. Just getting attached, getting connected to my pelvic floor literally has decompressed my spine and realigned everything, got me out of chronic hip pain and back pain. So I'm super passionate about it. That's why my business is Passion for Posture, because literally it's changed not just how my body feels, but it's changed my life by aligning my spine and my pelvis. I've been aligning my heart and my emotions. So yeah, it's a whole, I call it whole being wellness.
That is fantastic. That is so important. And the column of our body is very important. Not only is it where you find all your chakras, your energy centers, but the Kundalini energy, which is in control of all of creation. That's how we are reproductive on this planet. That is a big part. So having that line up with the physical aspect, that's huge. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So posture during pregnancy, we'll start at the very beginning. And my platform focuses on fertility and spiritual fertility. So bringing those aspects in. But once you're pregnant, you really have to have good posture. I remember walking up the stairs when I was pregnant and I worked in an office back then. And I
Mm.
would just remember making sure I didn't take the elevator because I knew I had to move. I had to have like the joints lubricated and all of that. I would put my hands on the back, on the small of my back a lot, and I still do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But just to help myself with the posture aspect. And I remember having, like, as my belly got bigger, I just remember having some bands that I put underneath my belly just to support and lift everything up.
Mm.
Um, I had a lot of back pain and I ended up having back labor. So, going to the chiropractor, it helped, but there were certain tips and tricks that I learned on Spinning Babies, which is a website that people can go on for free information about posture, sitting on those medicine balls, things like that. But for you and the clients you've had with like the pregnancy aspects, just to start at pregnancy, what are some tips that you can offer with regards to good posture?
Yeah. So, you know, the main thing is to be aware of your body because if you can't feel it, then you can't fix it. And so just being aware of what's going on while you move about your day, right? And kind of noticing the weaknesses, like you noticed your lower back, right? And like putting your hands there. When we're pregnant, the weight is forward, and so it's going to pull your pelvis forward. And although I've never been pregnant before, my pelvis was in that anterior tilting position, and so I and I was that way because I carried a heavy backpack in school, so like my whole body weight was forward. And so it's the same thing, and that's why I can help women in pregnancy, because I understand it's this lifting of the pelvic floor, and specifically the place that's the pubic bone is right in the front of the pelvis, and right above the pubic bone, we're so conditioned as women to suck in your gut, and that's not what it is. We need to activate the lower belly muscles. So it's way below the gut, right above that pubic bone in the front. If you can squeeze that in, just even right now, like as you're sitting, just kind of pull that in and up and then let it go. And then do it again and pull it in and up. And you can feel by the contrast when you let it go, everything kind of comes out. So it's just a very simple pulling in and up. Even just that will activate the pelvic floor, right? And, it historically we've done Kegels, which is like squeezing, holding things. And what I believe in is mobility. And the reason why I like mobility, and I define mobility as a flexibility and strength within the joint. And so we do that by contracting and then releasing. And what you're doing there, it's just like your heart. You're creating a pump like your heart, and the heart moves blood, right? Blood and oxygen in and toxins out. And so you start to create that in your pelvic floor. And so that awakens it. So,
I love that.
yeah.
That is so good. Even just doing those small little movements, it changes the way your posture is. As soon as you were talking about that, I started doing it and my shoulders relaxed
Yeah.
and I felt myself wanting to deep breathe.
Mhm.
So everything is connected. That's amazing.
Totally. Let me just add to that too. So especially like when you're carrying a baby, so after you've had baby, we carry them like this, right? And
Mm,
we do this, and this becomes a habit. And anything you do in your body, if you do it for 20 seconds, you're just ingraining that habit. And so what happens when you start to activate the pelvic floor, just like you said, this relaxes because you're using a different part, right? And so, yeah, it's so important to be connected to the womb space and the pelvic floor space as you're going before you're pregnant, as you're pregnant, the whole process through. I had a woman who had a baby. I can't believe it's been 6 months now, but she was coming to me for 6 months before, and her pregnancy was so easy, and she lost the weight right away, and she looks amazing. She just hasn't been back because now she can't figure out what to do with baby to come to class. So, but yeah, it's just it will change. The whole process will just feel easier.
that's amazing. I love that. So now let's get into the part of the childbirth aspect that is very strenuous on the pelvic floor, which is the actual childbirth. Now, a lot of childbirth, especially in the Western civilizations, you are flat on your back. And when you go into the hospital, even though, they put you into stirrups or whatever you want to call those things, you're still flat on your back. Sometimes you'll have your partner or maybe the nurse or your doula helping you, pushing your shoulders up,
Mm-hmm.
but your back is still inclined. And for me, that was the hardest part of having a hospital birth. So I had two births. One was the hospital birth, and then I planned a home birth, but he came 6 weeks early, so I was on my own. It was almost like a free birth, but then my husband got on the phone with the 911 and she was
Wow.
walking me through the whole thing. But we ended up having the birth while the ambulance was coming to the door, actually trying to find our home. But
Oh my
either
God.
way, one of the things that I realized was that the protocol is to go flat on your back. Now,
Mm,
the issue with that, with so many women that are giving childbirth, is that it's the worst position to be on. There is no gravity. There's nothing helping you pull that baby down and to push out. Back in the olden days, I don't know, maybe over 100 years ago, most of the births were at home. And they had birthing chairs. So it looked like a regular chair, but there was a hole cut out in the chair. So you could actually sit and have your posture and have your gravity and push the baby and allow the baby to push through, and there would be that hole. And then whoever was helping you, midwife, whatever that looked like back then, they would catch the baby. Now, I did my
yeah.
research and I did a video on this. And back in the 1600s, 1700s, Louis the 14th in France, he was a voyeur. He had 22 children. He loved to see the woman, the face of the baby come out of the woman,
Wow.
whatever that
Wow.
means. So he would force his wives or concubines, I don't know what that looked like back then, to lay flat on their back so he could see the face and see if that particular child looked like him as it was coming out of the womb. And that translated into modern Western civilization, forcing you on your back so that our obstetricians, OBGYNs, even midwives could see what's going on. They have more access to the area. But what does that do to the mom? That
Right.
forces them to put, like, give labor in the worst position possible. So I always tell people, do we poop laying down? Because no, we don't. So why are we giving birth laying down? So I had these powerful births where I had hypnobirthing and they were short, they were under 5 hours, they were fantastic. But at the same time, the second birth was mine. That I didn't have anybody over the phone. Yes, I did have a 911 operator telling me, get her flat on her back. She was telling that to my husband, and I was thinking, no, I'm home, I'm on my
Yeah.
turf. And so I was hands and knees. My hands were on the floor, knees were on the floor, almost like a fetal position, but with a little bit more power. And it was fantastic. When I was in the
Wow.
hospital, I tore because I was flat on my back. And that's why most people tear because they are flat on their back.
Wow.
Totally blows out the pelvic floor. I
Mm.
was limping and, I needed medication. I needed heavy medication. I mean, they gave me oxytocin, Oxycontin or oxycodone, one of the oxys after the hospital birth. Second baby, I took a Tylenol the next day because of the womb. My womb was contracting, and that's what was hurting. I was
Wow.
fine, no tearing, no nothing. The second baby is a little bit easier, but either way, it was just effortless for me
Yeah.
because I did the work and because I was in the right position. That's
Hmm.
what I want to talk about.
Mm.
Healing that pelvic floor, and not just right after the birth, but maybe over time. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing, your story. I just want to say, like, and just being able to use your own intuition and to give birth in the way that felt right to you, how empowering that is. And yeah, it's amazing that you're sharing your stories too. I just really believe in addressing something before it's an issue, you know, making it part of your wellness routine when you know you want to get pregnant, really having a relationship with this part of your body, right? Like I feel like we've just been societally like shut down from I call them our sacred parts. And it's just it's the holiest part of you, like that sounds funny, but it is. It really, it's like it's everything here. And your belly is where you feel what's right for you and what's not right for you as well. So just like having that relationship, just getting connected before you lift weights or move. And then I really feel like pregnancy and the whole process and then balancing your hormones after would just be so much more seamless if you're really connected to this area. And as far as making sure to heal after, if you're not doing any work before, you have to take it slow after. So really just being in some kind of movement. Like I teach mobility classes that get your pelvic floor mobile and activated. That would be the most ideal. I think things that are just body weight focused are really great, because when you're lifting weights, you can only engage the strong muscles, right? So if you think about it, if you lift up something heavy, the strong muscles activate right away. And so the weaker muscles are the ones that are a problem, right? And those are usually our pelvic floor stabilizer muscles or core. So doing things, functional movements like squatting down to pick something up, right? Because you're going to be doing that with your child, right? Like that kind of stuff, moving down and seeing, does the spine move? Like really getting acquainted with how your body functions. And if there's some kind of imbalance, if you're uncomfortable doing it, if your knees bother you, if your knees and ankles are bothering you, you're not using the pelvis.
Yeah.
So these are all like just being aware of the body. You want to feel your glutes, you want to feel your inner thighs, not just your outer hips, your IT bands, right? You want to feel the muscles up underneath. This is the whole pelvic floor, all of the muscles up and underneath. So the inner thighs, the adductors, the hamstrings, all of these, when we walk, you're using all those muscles. So if you can't feel them when you're walking, there's probably some kind of a disconnect. Yeah.
Wow, that's really, really important, and that's key. And bringing it back to childbirth, when there is childbirth present, when you're actually going through the motions,
Mhm.
the average person can deal with maybe like 20 units of pain.
Mm.
Women take up to 90 units of pain that they can handle, that their body can like process while they're giving birth. So it is, and when I use the word pain, I use it loosely because when you use the modalities that I teach, the bliss-born hypnobirthing, you're going through a different route, which is through the mind. And that's what the oxytocin from the pituitary gland, that's what opens you up. But in any case, there's a lot going on during childbirth. So making sure that you feel empowered and connecting with your body. I'm glad you talked about that. So those
Can
are
I just
some,
add one thing? Can I just add
Mhm.
one thing there?
Sure.
So with when you're going through childbirth too,
Mhm.
um, I believe pain is a call for more oxygen. The body wants more oxygen in the area. And so, pain is on a spectrum. We have numbness and pain on either ends. So
Mhm.
when there's pain, we pull away. That's our natural response, typically, unless we've done a lot of work with being in discomfort. But typically, we're going to draw away. And when we pull away, we're contracting more. So it's creating more of the shutting down of feeling, which is creating more difficulty with the whole process of childbirth. So it's really important to get acquainted with where are your pain points. And I like to say lots of sensation, right? Because it might not be a stabbing, but it might feel like a lot of sensation. And when we talk about pain, we get scared of it. So it's just like lots of sensation, not a lot of sensation, right? What we want to do is bridge them together so we just feel everything and nothing feels painful. And I believe, and I haven't gone through this, but I believe that a really beautiful childbirth that feels like even orgasmic is one that the women are really just connected to the pelvic floor and they can go through the contraction and expansion and allow it to be part of the process and trust that your body knows what she's doing. Yeah. So
I
anyway, just
love
want
that. Thank you for adding that. That's so important, trusting the body. That just it speaks volumes. Before we move into what type of posture we can help our kids with, because I do have a wide variety of folks watching these videos, and some of them already have a family and they're looking to grow their family. So, and selfishly, I need this information too because my older son, he slouches. So
Mm.
I'll be giving him a bath and he'll just be slouching. And I had to show him a picture of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, that cartoon recently. I was really like overtly hunched, but I knew he wasn't going to end up like that. But I really want to show him, hey, this is what posture means. This is how important it is to lift everything up, and you're going to feel better when you do it. But before we move into children, there may be some folks that are watching that have had surgeries, have had fusions, have had slip discs, things like that. And that may be a lot of your clientele because they are in that space that they need that posture help. And my husband actually had back surgeries and a fusion in the same year.
Mm.
It was horrible. He was in a lot of pain, and he still is. So people with sciatica, just those range of services, just to talk
Yeah.
about some of the things that can help them.
Yeah, I'm just a big proponent of mobilizing, right? Moving. And so, like I said before, when we have pain, we kind of pull back from, and we're also taught to rest and not move. And what that does is it makes everything get more tight. And the more tight it gets, the harder it is to mobilize. So it just takes longer to heal. So as soon as I hurt something, I start to move it right away and I let that pain response. I know my body wants oxygen. And the only way to get oxygen in is to get blood flow. And what does the heart do? It pumps, right? You have to create a heart wherever that pain is. So you have to pump it. Squeeze and release, squeeze and release. When you squeeze, you restrict the blood flow. And when you release it, the blood flows in. So this is just my understanding that I've learned from my own injuries. But yeah, there's different movements, and I have specific ones that I believe in for the pelvis and the spine that you should do every single day. And one of them is just rocking your pelvis forward and back, going from the anterior tilt to the posterior tilt and kind of finding the neutral in between, but making sure you're moving your pelvis in these ways. Um, yeah. And as you move the pelvis, it aligns the spine. But I would say mobility, paying attention to how you feel and noticing not just the pain points, bringing your mind to focus on the numb points because we also get attached to the pain and we're so hyper focused on this thing that's bothering me. And it's just like in life, that person that's bothering me or whatever it is, instead of coming to just zoom out. Like if you have, let's say your lumbar spine, if you zoom out around it where the pain is, there's going to be numbness around it. So you broaden your awareness. And as you broaden your awareness, it turns off the pain point.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. I love how you wrapped consciousness into the healing because that's huge. That,
Yeah.
you know, most of the issues that a lot of folks are facing right now are emotional. And then they
100%.
manifest in the body and it becomes disease or dis-ease. Amazing. And so now we'll talk about child posture and any tips on for children. Mhm.
Yeah, I love working with children because the children that I've worked with are just like hungry for it and they've already noticed their own posture and that's why they wanted to work on it. And so, like I said, I don't know if I said this on the video or just with you, but I carried a heavy backpack in high school. I had 7 minutes to get to my other classes, so I didn't even go to my locker. So we had 700 people in my class. It was just insane. So my spine was like this.
Mm.
And I think the biggest thing, I was shamed from it, and I carried that shame for a long time until I figured out because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it, how to fix my back. But we've had parents say, sit up tall. My parents would say, sit up, like don't lean, but that never helped me.
Mm.
Right. And so what I do, and this is what I teach my clients, when you notice your posture is bad, the thing is you have to notice it. Right. And so I would teach that the parent take it on almost like a thing with your child, like, hey, I'm gonna do this posture like challenge. Do you want to do it with me? Right. And so it becomes this thing where you do it together and you notice your own posture and you correct it. And then you share with your child, hey, I noticed my posture today was like this. And I did those exercises and I felt so much better. Like, you know what I mean? So making it something that you work together on, but you will never correct your posture just by, I'm sitting like this, let me sit like this. It doesn't correct it. It doesn't make the change. I mean, we've all had that experience. Let me just sit up. It doesn't stick. What you have to do is own the bad posture. You have to, because your body is holding yourself this way and you're not thinking about it. It's an unconscious position. So when you make, like Joe Dispenza says, when you make the unconscious conscious, right? When you make your breath an awareness practice, when you notice your posture, you notice it, you don't judge yourself, but you say, oh, interesting. I'm holding my body this way. How am I feeling? How are my emotions right now? Right? Like my husband died a few years ago and I felt this. I was this heavy, heavy posture, right? And I could feel that gravity was just pushing me down into the earth. That's what our emotions do, heavy emotions. We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. And so just noticing and being aware in my mind, this is what's happening. I'm like, I'm not letting this take me down. Let me move out of it and then let me go back into it. And so you just move yourself. This is what I teach. You move into and out of because you teach yourself your body through contrast. And then once you've owned the tight posture, then you can change it. And so you just start to find there's a balance in between the contrast. I call it misbehaving and then behaving, right? So you misbehave and then behave. And then you kind of find that sweet spot in the middle. And it might not be today, but you get progressively better. And what anchors you into doing the work is that you feel better. And so you want to do it more.
I love that. I love that. And I love how the passion that you have was birthed through heartache. So sorry for your loss. And you know, grief is hard on the body as well. So giving the body support while you go through that is it's it's underrated, but it needs to happen more. Amazing.
Sure.
Well, wonderful. So as we wrap up, Elizabeth, I'd love to hear about some services you have, maybe some local events that you have in South Florida, and your contact information. How can people reach you?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So I do public classes here in Delray Beach. My Instagram handle is Passion for Posture, FOR. And so I post everything on there. You can sign up for my email blasts on there as well. And I do have some virtual programming that I will be coming out with. I've done a few rounds, and if you're interested in that, you can also just DM me, and yeah, we can get connected. I do virtual privates, and really all kinds of things. So just reach out if you're interested and we'll figure out how to work together.
Okay, that sounds great. I will have all of Elizabeth's links in the description below, or in the link in my bio if you're watching this on Instagram. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here. I'd love to have you back later on, maybe to talk about yoga for kids, yoga for prenatal, and whatever comes up that we can work together for. And I really hope that everyone thinks about posture as a new routine in their life, not something that you have to do or you have to tell your kids to do, but something that is a part of your life that's going to align everything. Because right here in the core, that's where life starts. And it's just so amazing. So, again, thank you for being here. And for those of you looking for any information, look for that in the links below. And again, my website is fromfertility-to-delivery.com, moving over to danarubin.com, and all my links are in my bio in the description as well. Thank you again for being here, Elizabeth. You have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Dana. You too. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Love you guys.